tota sabelani, tota sabelani, tota nandani, iolengus, city lengus.
It is indeed a scourge and a pandemic that has been affecting the global society. And the question is, what exactly can we do to solve this pandemic? And of course, ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about gender-based violence. And today we're going to be discussing it based on the article that was brought 5 days back by the Chronically. Why is it that the church is no longer a safe haven? Why are the perpetrators of gender-based violence found in churches? My name is Gwazi Statusia and I'm your host, joined by Leslie Zulu, a Christian brother, and also an anonymous gender-based violence victim. My first question is going to be directed to Leslie Zulu, our Christian brother, who's going to be attacking this from the Christian perspective. Leslie, from the Chronicle article that we have, it says a church is no longer a safe haven, and it says that according to Zim statistics, 85% of the country's population are Christians, yet many church leaders have made headlines after turning against their flock. How far true is that?
Okay, I would say that I can't really debate on how far true that is, but what I know is that a church is like a hospital. So not everyone who is there is perfect, and I know that the world expects to see perfection from individuals from a church based on this topic that we're discussing about. And the church is a hospital that people need to be reformed in their minds and also in how they relate to other people. So now it's based on the choices that they make daily.
Okay, but Leslie, my question will be, what is the role of church in gender-based violence?
The role of church in gender-based violence is to teach men and women on how to treat each other. On the church's side, we use the Bible, the Word of God, as a guideline. The Word of God says that men love your wives as Christ loved the church, and the Bible also states that women are the weaker vessels, and so that pointing out that obviously us men we are the stronger vessels. So in my point of view, our strength is to protect women and not to attack them.
But then that brings us to the problem that we're facing right now. I mean, based on the scriptures that you're giving us and the wisdom that you're sharing, can we not say that churches influence gender-based violence due to all the things that are preached? I mean, exactly what you just said right now.
Yes.
Do you agree that it also perpetrates gender-based violence?
Yes, it does. It influences it at a positive extent, because there is no way in the Bible that you've ever seen a woman being beaten by a man. And what the Word of God teaches us is love, and love has none of these above that you have mentioned, gender-based violence and all things like that.
Well, we have heard Leslie, ladies and gentlemen. Now we're gonna have to move to our anonymous victim who has been a victim of gender-based violence physically and emotionally, which was, by the way, done by someone from church, and therefore we find it very hard to now understand churches or even rely on churches as we used to back in the day. So we're going to move on to our anonymous on my right. Good afternoon, lady. My question to you will be, do you think that churches influence gender-based violence due to all the preachings that they do about women being the weaker vessels and about women having to submit to men?
Yes, I think echechi ikho lapho kwenziwa khona ukuthi amadoda I expect ukuthi thina noma ngaze asenzeni you submit umguqele uba uyaguqelwa akaphendula akayenzwa lutho. So at the end of the day we lose ivoice yethu because echechi kwesifundiswa khona ukuthi indoda akayiphendulwa noma ngaze kwenzeni kakuthi so vele sahlala ungaphansi kwendoda yona iphezulu isenza ekufunayo ngawo.
Okay, I understand you also went through something like that. Can you kindly tell us what exactly happened and what was your experience as far as gender-based violence is concerned?
I said like I used to date elder church.
Okay.
So like when abuser physically and emotionally when ngichaya ngempama for things engangiyabe ngingazenzanga so vele umuntu ngaphonga ukuchaya nje engafuni ukulalela so vele emotionally lapho yagcina futhi usu abusekile.
Yes, it psychologically affects you.
Yes.
So what measures did you take when these things were happening? Who did you tell? Who did you communicate with?
I communicated with my friends esingena sonke ichechi but wayengitshela ukuthi indoda iyahlonishwa enjalo ukuchaya kumele uqinisele ubekezele just because he is a man like balesandla esikhulu kulabafazi bayabusa abafazi so angisazange ngagcina ngareporta ku anyone.
Okay, and you did this because you were told not to by another church member, and you're also trying to protect your men. Is that so? Did I get that correctly?
Yeah, and our victims gaya engaphumela phandle our treat nicely. So
okay.
We will protect our people and we protect our folks.
So at this point in time, what exactly do you wish you would have done differently for you to get out of the hand of this abuser, or what have you done?
I think like ngitshele abantu abaningi about into eyayisenzakala maybe sasingathola i-solution of i-problem yangikhona and mina ukuthi ngisolve i-abuse ngapho ngichila nje kuphela relationship yangikhona though it was painful but I had to because yayingihlukuluza.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for being with us here. Now back to Leslie. So Leslie, you've heard what the anonymous has said. It seems as though church condones perpetrators of gender-based violence, because if you get people telling you that you have to be patient, you are a woman and you have to submit to your man, it actually means that they are condoning this behavior and they are harboring perpetrators of gender-based violence. Now my question is, do you agree to that, or have you seen that in action?
First of all, I would say that she did a good thing by dumping the dude because he was being violent.
Okay.
And secondly, the church teaches to submit to the men in a Christ-like manner, not to submit to violence.
Okay.
Yes, there you have a voice. You're not supposed to submit to violence, but you submit to the man as the head of the house. That's how God put it, isn't? Because Christ is the head of the house, isn't? And then after that comes the man, then after that comes the woman. So the man is supposed to love, if it comes to marriages, the man is supposed to love the wife as Jesus loved the church. So you should consider Christ-like love. And therefore, if you are in a relationship with anyone who claims to be a church or a deacon or a pastor or a bishop or a prophet, if they are abusive, please do not take any word that comes from them and do not make something permanent concerning churches because you've experienced someone who is violent. Because not everyone at church is perfect. If I'm just repeating that not everyone is perfect, because even Paul in the Word of God, he was saying that there are brethren who have crept into the church unawares. They have came in to take away the freedom that Jesus had given to the church, isn't it? So right now, this person who is abusive, whether a deacon, whether whatever position you have at church, you have no right to be abusive. A title means nothing before Jesus, because we are all his children. So abusive, dump the dude, just leave him like that, and you will be fine.
Okay, wise words coming from Leslie Zulu. Now, feminists recognizes the key note that patriarchy plays in woman oppression. But then I understand that from the church's perspective, it is actually a bad thing for a woman to be a feminist. Why is it a bad thing for women to be feminist? Why is it a bad thing for them to have a voice and recognize the pattern that the patriarchy is doing as far as oppression is concerned?
I don't believe that the church is suppressing the voice of the women, because it is not what God is doing. Whatever the church does is something that must be what God is doing. So God is neither suppressing whomever's voice in the church. It says in the Bible that there is no more woman or man. We are now all the children of God. So actually, women preach. We allow women
but then that's where my point is. My point is, men are using the word of God to oppress women. It's not God who's being oppressive to any human being, no. But it is men who are using this against women to say, we are men, and the Bible recognizes to be as such, and therefore the patriarchy says this, and therefore we as the men, we are the leaders, therefore oppressing the woman's voice, oppressing women in everything that they're doing and in all the things that they should be doing.
Okay, I know that the word of God has been used for doing so many bad things.
Yes.
But people can interpret the word of God using their own understanding, so that they benefit in their own ways. But they do not really teach what the gospel really means in a verse.
So we do agree in that. Thank you so much, Leslie. 5 days back, the Bulawayo Minister of Provincial Affairs and Devolution, Judith Ncube, says she has concerned about gender-based violence, and she will hope that the churches go back to being the safe haven that it was always been. She feels that there is a need for churches to go back into practicing the same old ways, where they protect and they use the word of God and they use the church of God in a good manner. We are now going to hear from the beautiful lady as she gives us her closing remarks, giving us what she wants to leave you with, what she feels like you have to know about gender-based violence, or what she feels like one has to do if she ever finds herself in the position that she found herself in. Beautiful lady, you can give us your closing remarks.
If you find yourself being abused by someone, it's not like, oh mama, you whatever abuse you. Lama totala abuse kwanje lapha. Umuntu mele like akhulume. If ungakwanisa ukukhuluma endlini, at least talk to friends phandle and reach out to amapolisa. They are the ones who can help abantu who are abused. Because the abuser also uyabedinga like uncedo. Sometimes abanye benza bengananzeleli. So a person who is abused may reach out to abanye engaveli phakathi and engazama ukuprotecta omunye umuntu in the name of uthando.
Thank you so much, sweetheart, and wish you very good healing there, and I pray that you don't find yourself in the arms of another abuser. Moving on to Leslie Zulu. what would you want the public to know? What would you want the viewers to know about gender-based violence, about the church, and everything at large?
Okay, gender-based violence is not something that has been induced by the church. It is completely un-Christ-like, it's un-Christian, and what I believe is that when you are facing abuse, the first person to talk to is God, because people might not be able to help you. So it's very difficult if you're facing these kind of things and you're not a Christian or God's child. So secondly, I would say that at the church is not the refuge, because churches are not what they are supposed to be, isn't it? Some are work in progress, and some perhaps have reached that state, and some are fake, totally fake.
Okay.
So God is your refuge, not the church.
Okay.
Isn't it? So you do not judge Jesus' church based on an infiltrator.
Okay.
Isn't it? People who do not want to follow the word of God, people who live according to how they view things, but they just claim the word Christian and they just want to look good in suits and in Bibles and in titles, but on the inside of them, they are not really Christians.
Okay.
So please, a true Christian and a true man of God and a true woman of God will know how to treat a woman of God, and a woman of God will know how to submit to a man of God, because there are things to submit to and there are things not to submit to. As I mentioned earlier, that Jesus didn't say submit to violence. No, he didn't say that. He said submit to the man, and the man must love the woman as Christ loved the church. So you should see Jesus' love from that man for you to submit to that man.
Okay, thank you so much, Leslie, and thank you for being here with us in this podcast. We really appreciate you pretty much, and thank you to our anonymous lady as well for being with us. As we come to the closing, the Bulawayo Minister of Provincial Affairs and Devolution raised some concerns in the commemoration of the 16 Days of Activism against gender-based violence, and stated that she wishes that the church can go back to being the safe haven that it used to be back in the day. And also, I want to leave you with that. I hope that we do not use the word of God as a token of abusing women, and I also wish that women can actually see beyond abusers and can see beyond abusers who are using the word of God in wrongful manner. And with that, I really thank you so much for joining me. My name is Wazis Tachisi.